Before you can even picture Mount Olympus, before Zeus was ever a thought, before any of the gods we know and love, there was something else, a different time. So we're going to have to go way, way back. Not just centuries, but, well, uncountable ages really, into a cosmos that was brand new, totally vast, and just humming with this raw, untamed energy. I mean, picture a universe of deep, deep shadows and the very first glimmers of light, where the forces of nature weren't just laws of physics, they were living, breathing things. In that void, there was no up or down, no day or night, just this swirling, silent potential, something the Greeks called chaos. And out of that chaos, the first minds woke up. They weren't exactly born, they just appeared. One was the Earth, this immense, dreaming foundation we'd come to call Gaia, and the other, born right from her, was the sky, a canopy dusted with baby stars, a shimmering vault named Uranus. This is their story, the story of how they came together and the dynasty that was born from their slow cosmic embrace. Let's dive into that primordial world.
You know, this line really gets to the heart of it, that profound stillness of the first age. There was literally no sound, because there was no air for sound to travel through. There was no time, because nothing had really happened yet to mark its passing. Just try to imagine it. Gaia, the Earth, not as a ball of rock and dirt, but as this sleeping consciousness, a vast fertile potential. And right there with her, Uranus, the sky, not miles away like we see it, but pressed against her, a dome of infant stars draped over her like a blanket. Their connection was total. It was matter and infinity, all fused into one. In that quiet, there was no separation. The whole world was just one single dreaming being. And it's from this perfect, silent intimacy, this unbroken embrace, that the first stirrings of life, of power, and of conflict were just about to begin. The universe was getting ready to take its first real breath.
So from that endless cosmic union between Gaia and Uranus, the very first generation of gods starts to emerge. Now, these are not the gods we're used to thinking about from Olympus, the ones with very human-like dramas. No, these beings are older, more elemental. Their bodies are the building blocks of reality. And their birth isn't some quick event. It's this slow, rhythmic unfolding from deep inside the earth, kind of like mountains rising over thousands of years. Gaia can feel them stirring inside her, not like babies in a womb, but as these massive, expanding presences, each with its own cosmic energy. First, she brings forth the 100-handed ones, the Hecatoncheires, these terrifyingly strong, monstrous beings, and then the Cyclopus, master smiths with a single eye that burned with the fire of creation itself. But it's their next children who are going to define this entire age. This is the story of that first divine family, a dynasty of titans whose rise and eventual fall would set the stage for all of mythology to come.
And what a family it was! There were 12 of them in total, the Titans, just colossal beings, and each one was basically a pillar holding up this new reality. For instance, you had Oceanus, the oldest. His body wasn't made of flesh. It was the endless, world-circling river that all other waters would come from. Next to him, you've got someone like Hyperion, this radiant being whose gaze was the very first dawn, the whole concept of light in a world that had only known twilight. And of course, there were the sisters. Thea, who was sight and brilliance, Phoebe, the goddess of prophecy, Mnemosyne, who was literally memory itself. And right there in the middle, we see Themis. Her presence was divine law, sacred order. The cosmos actually bent to her will. Next to her is Rhea, whose nurturing spirit held the promise of the future, a great mother just waiting for her time. And then, all the way on the right, the youngest one, the most important one for our story, Kronos. He just felt different. His siblings were these big, expansive forces of nature, but he was a force of limitation, of endings. He was time itself. See, these weren't just gods with powers. They were the powers, the living, breathing framework of a new reality.
So in the beginning, Uranus is looking down from his starry heavens, and he is just filled with the Creator's pride, right? These amazing, powerful beings were his kids. He watched Oceanus carve the first rivers into Gaia's plains. He saw Hyperion cast the first real light, pushing back all that primordial darkness. He was in awe. But his first children, those monstrous 100-handed ones and the fiery Cyclopes, they had really unsettled him. Their raw, chaotic power just didn't fit with his idea of a perfect, orderly universe. So he'd already thrown them down, deep into the earth, into a dark place called Tartarus. But now, with the Titans, a new feeling starts to creep in. As more and more of them show up, each one a massive force of nature, that pride starts to curdle. All slowly gets replaced by something much colder. A quiet fear starts to whisper through the sky, a fear of being surpassed, a fear of being replaced, a fear that his children, his own beautiful, perfect creations, might one day rise up and take his throne. And this, right here, is where that perfect cosmic harmony starts to break, for good. That quiet little fear inside Uranus, it doesn't go away. It grows. It festers into full-blown paranoia, and it twists his entire being. That loving embrace that once created everything now starts to tighten, to constrict. The sky, which was once a protective blanket, now starts to feel like a cage. Uranus's need for absolute control, his terror of being overthrown, it starts to corrupt the very fabric of their world. He just can't stand to see his powerful children walk free on the surface of their mother. He can't risk the challenge he thinks they represent. And so, the father becomes a jailer, the creator becomes a tyrant, and the age of innocence is officially over.
So what you have now is this fundamental conflict of principles, a split right down the middle of the cosmos. On one side, you have Gaia. She represents creation, expansion, harmony. She loves her children. She wants to see them grow, to shape the world, to do what they were made to do. Her whole nature is to bring forth life. But Uranus, he becomes the total opposite. He's all about control, and it's all born from fear. He doesn't see their growth as creation. He sees it as a threat to his power. So his impulse is to contain them, to limit them, to oppress them. The very beings who were supposed to build the world together are now locked in this silent, agonizing battle between a mother who wants her kids to be free and a father who is terrified of losing his place at the top.
This whole conflict just escalates into an act of unimaginable, suffocating cruelty. Driven by this paranoia, Uranus does the unthinkable. He doesn't just banish the Titans to Tartarus like he did with their monstrous older siblings. No, this is worse. As each Titan is born, he uses the immense weight of the entire sky to crush them, to force their essence right back down deep into the body of their mother, Gaia. It's a metaphysical prison. They're trapped inside the earth, their incredible powers smothered, their spirits suffocating in darkness before they can even take a single breath. I mean, can you imagine the agony? The Titans are in constant torment, and Gaia herself is forced to be a prison for the very children she loves. Her body is swelling, her mountains are groaning, her plains are cracking under the strain. She can feel her silent screams inside her very bones. The beautiful harmony of the cosmos is just shattered by this brutal, relentless oppression.
Well, Gaia's suffering just becomes unbearable. The constant pain from her trapped children, the crushing, suffocating weight of her now tyrannical husband, it's all just too much. The nurturing Earth Mother, the foundation of all life, has been pushed to her absolute limit. And her grief starts to transform. It hardens like rock under pressure, and it becomes this slow-burning, determined rage. She realizes Uranus is never going to stop. He will keep their children locked in darkness forever just to protect his throne. Any love she had for him is gone, turned to ash. So from the depths of her pain and her resolve, she comes up with a desperate plan, a rebellion. She knows she can't face the sky all by herself. She needs a champion, one of her own oppressed children. And for that champion, she's going to do the impossible. She's going to forge a weapon from her own body, a tool sharp enough to cut the heavens themselves.
Just think about that question for a second. Who would dare? Uranus isn't just a king. He is the sky. He's the whole firmament, the dome of the heavens, the only source of authority that has ever existed. His power is absolute. His presence is inescapable. To challenge him is to try and challenge reality itself. So down in the darkness, inside the body of the earth, Gaia whispers her plan to her sons. Her voice is like a tremor in the rock. She pleads with them, begs for one of them to rise up, to be her champion. But who would have the courage? Most of them are trembling in fear. Oceanus, the oldest, his waters are deep, but they're passive. He turns away. Hyperion, the light-bringer, he hesitates there in the shadows. To stand against Uranus was basically asking to be wiped from existence. A terrified silence just fills the prison of the earth.
And then, a voice cuts through that terrified silence. Not the loudest one, but the steadiest. I will do it. It's Kronos, the youngest son. The one who always had that heavy stillness of destiny about him. The one whose quiet, calculating stare his father had always, on some level, feared. While his brothers and sisters were defined by water, or light, or law, these big, expansive forces, Kronos was the embodiment of something more final, more unavoidable: time. And what does time do? Time brings endings, time brings change, time eventually topples every tyrant. He was the one Titan who understood deep down that no ruler reigns forever. He feels zero love for the father who imprisoned him, just this cold resentment and a burning desire to be free. And so he steps forward, ready to answer his mother's call.
So to arm her champion,
Gaia forges this incredible weapon. From the deepest core of her being, from the very heart of the world, she pulls out a brand new element, this gray, unearthly metal she calls adamantine. It's unbreakable, born from the first sparks of creation and cooled by her own geological grief. In this volcanic surge of pain and purpose, she molds it. Not into some glorious sword for a hero, but into a tool with a grim purpose, a great curved sickle. See, this wasn't a weapon for a noble fight. It was a tool for a harvest, the harvest of a tyrannical king. The sickle glows with this cold divine light, its edge is sharper than starlight, and it just sings with ancient earthly power. It is the only weapon in existence that could actually wound a cosmic being like Uranus. It's the key to their whole revolution, an artifact born from a mother's fury.
And so, the stage is set for what is probably the single most important moment in cosmic history. The plan is an ambush born out of pure desperation. Gaia lies in wait, luring Uranus down to her embrace, just like he's done for eternity. But this time, it is a trap. Hidden deep within the earth, Kronos waits, that adamantine sickle cold and heavy in his hand. He and 4 of his brothers, they take their positions at the 4 corners of the world, ready to hold their father down. As night falls, this thick, expectant silence just settles over everything. The universe itself seems to be holding its breath. This is more than just a coup, it's a total paradigm shift. A single violent act is about to shatter the entire cosmic order and remake the universe forever.
As he's waiting there in the darkness, sickle in hand, Kronos can feel the crushing weight of his father above him. And for just a split second, the sheer scale of what he's about to do gives him pause. I mean, this is patricide on a cosmic scale, an act against the very source of his own life. But then he remembers the muffled cries of his trapped siblings, the endless groaning pain of his mother, the suffocation of the entire world. He tightens his grip. He decides this isn't some selfish grab for power. This is not rebellion. This is justice. It's a necessary act to restore balance, to let creation finally breathe. And with that thought, he steels himself. His entire being, his entire destiny, all converging on this one irreversible moment.
As Uranus descends, Kronos lunges. With a huge surge of power that's been suppressed for ages, he swings the sickle. The blade meets the sky, and a sound unlike anything ever heard before tears through the cosmos. It's the sound of reality itself being ripped apart. Uranus bellows in shock and agony as the adamantine edge castrates him, severing his physical connection to Gaia. The heavens recoil in this spasm of pain, pulling away from the earth for the very first time. And as the sky retreats upward, wounded and horrified, everything changes. The pressure is gone. The prison is broken. One by one, the Titans rise from the depths of Gaia, finally able to stand tall, to breathe free under a newly distant starry sky. The world is changed forever. From the blood that falls on the earth, the Erinyes, the Furies of vengeance, are born. And from the seed that falls into the sea, the goddess of beauty, Aphrodite, will one day arise. So liberation and its consequences are born in the exact same instant.
What Kronos did here was completely unprecedented. Never ever before had a divine ruler been challenged, let alone defeated and mutilated like this. This is the first time in history that power has been taken by force. He didn't just free his siblings, he shattered the entire idea of eternal, unchallengeable rule. He basically wrote a new and terrible law into the fabric of the cosmos, that sons can overthrow their fathers, that new generations can and will replace the old. This single act of violent succession, this cosmic regicide, is now going to echo through all of mythology. It's a precedent of blood and power that can never, ever be undone.
The victory is total, but the aftermath is immediate, and it's ominous. As the Titans are celebrating their newfound freedom, their cheers echoing in a world that's never even known sound, they hail Kronos as their liberator and their new king. But the wounded Uranus, drifting way up in the high heavens, now a diminished and distant god, he's not quite finished. The act of severing the sky has unleashed things nobody planned for. The Furies now walk the earth, a constant reminder of blood guilt. It turns out every revolution, no matter how justified it seems, carries the seeds of its own destruction right inside it. The cycle of power, once you set it in motion, is a brutal and a hungry thing.
With his last bit of influence, his voice like a whisper of dying stars, Uranus delivers this chilling prophecy. It echoes across the cosmos, and it hits Kronos right in his core. Now, this isn't just the curse of a sore loser, it's a statement of cosmic law, the very law that Kronos himself just put into motion. The cycle that he began, he won't be able to escape it. The precedent he set will become his own doom. These words are going to haunt him, a seed of paranoia planted right in the mind of the new king, twisting his glorious victory into a future that's now defined by fear. The liberator has just been handed the tyrant's crown.
For now, though, it's a victory party. The liberated Titans, full of gratitude, unanimously declare Kronos their new ruler. He is the Lord of the Cosmos, King of the Titans. He marries his sister Rhea, and together they start a new era, one that poets would later call the Golden Age. And for a while, the world flourishes under his rule. Humanity is created, and they live without any work or sadness, in perfect harmony with the gods. But the whole time, that prophecy, those words from his mutilated father, they're just lingering in the back of his mind. He grips the very sickle that won him the throne, now a scepter of his power. And it's a constant reminder of how he's supposed to fall. The liberator is now the king, but the shadow of tyranny is a long one.
And this brings us to the final, timeless question that this whole myth really forces us to think about. Kronos started out as a hero, right? A champion of justice who freed the world from a suffocating tyrant. He was a revolutionary. Yet now that he's armed with the terrible knowledge of his own fated end, how is he going to rule? The very fear of being overthrown, the same existential dread that corrupted his father, Uranus, now lives inside him. This ancient story isn't just about gods and monsters. It's a really deep and tragic look at power, paranoia, and the repeating cycle of history. It shows us how revolutions born from a desire for freedom can curdle into dictatorships, all because of the fear of losing control. The revolutionary, haunted by the ghost of the king he killed and the promise of the son who will kill him, becomes the very thing he fought against. And that is a pattern we see repeated, not just in myths, but all throughout our own history, a timeless warning that the heaviest burden for any king is the weight of his own crown.